Hi, and welcome to the Higher Education Access Corner. I am hosting today. I'm Tiffanie DeVan, along with,
Deanna Brown.
and this is one of our first Hot Topic segments for 2025. So, Happy New Year from our Hot Topics team. And today, what we're going to be talking about is the FAFSA Completion Week of Action. The Department of Ed has actually made this FAFSA Week of Action. So, we're talking January 3rd through January 17th. And it's a great way for different organizations such as your FEAs and state agencies, schools, community organizations, anyone who is helping students and families complete the FAFSA application. It's a great way to really put more effort towards getting those completions done. And that's the purpose of it. So thanks for joining us for this session. And Diona and I are just going to talk about just some of the key things that FEAA is doing, as well as things that are happening throughout on the federal level. And then we'll still give you some reminders on why FAFSA is important and a few other little things or tidbits to kind of get you going. So, Yana, if you wanted to kind of like kick it off, and maybe I think a good place to start is we're looking at where 24-25 FAFSA was and where we are now for 25-26. How do you think it's going?
So from all accounts, it seems like the 25-26 FAFSA has been a much easier rollout. We've been hearing glowing reviews from everyone that has been completing the FAFSA. We have 13 higher education access partners that have been having FAFSA completion sessions throughout the state. And everyone has been saying the same thing. You know, the FAFSA completion sessions are going well. Families are able to complete the FAFSA very quickly. And it's been a lot less problems than what we saw for the 24-25 FAFSA. So I think by all accounts, the department has really done a good job to fix some of the bugs that was happening with the 24-25 FAFSA. So it seems like everybody's been pretty pleased so far.
I agree. And I can even say, as one of the 13 access partners, when I'm going in and we're doing the FAFSA workshops, a lot of folks are starting to say, am I going to have the issues that I heard about from 24-25? And I'm like, so far, things have been pretty much going well. And I've had some be done in like 10-15 minutes. And they're kind of like, whoa, this was it. Because it was really that simple. Now, others, it might take them a little bit longer to get it done, but we have not had any of the problems. So I know as just one of the access partners, I am extremely pleased with this process because it's going so much smoother. And the goal is to get as many families and students to complete the FAFSA as possible. And they don't have to delay it. In the beginning, I remember some were saying, well, I'm going to wait a while to see if we can get through the kinks. And I don't really think that is necessary. So hopefully those who are listening, those who know that they need to complete the FAFSA are going to just go in and knock it out. And then also for that person who is not sure about why you're completing the FAFSA or when it needs to be completed, I'll just start out by saying that if you're planning to be enrolled as early as July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026, then you want to make sure that you are someone who is completing the 25-26 version of the FAFSA application. It's the key reason that students can possibly qualify for certain types of need-based financial aid that is out there. And I don't want to take over all of this because, Deanna, you've been doing so much, especially working directly with Ed. If you wanted to share any tips on, why it's so important to complete the FAFSA and maybe even some of the myths that folks have heard for why they're saying, well, no, I'm not going to file because, or we're not going to bother because.
I think what I always counsel families on when they bring this up, some families will say, you know what, we already know, we make a certain income. We don't think that we're going to qualify for some of the need-based grants like the federal Pell Grant or the Pennsylvania State Grant. And I always advise them, unless you're paying completely out of pocket, if you want any type of assistance, financial assistance for your student to go to college, you want to make sure that your student completes that free application for federal student aid. So that's the foundational form to receive any type of assistance. Yes, it does determine eligibility for some of the need-based grants, but it also determines whether or not the student can take out federal student loans if they're interested in that. A lot of times colleges will also want the FAFSA to be completed before they will consider the student for any type of institutional aid. A lot of scholarship organizations will want the FAFSA to be completed. So you could be missing out on additional aid that is not solely based on your income if you don't fill out the FAFSA form. So I always say it doesn't hurt. You know, if you want to receive any type of assistance, you want to make sure that you complete that form. And I think one of the biggest myths that sometimes holds families back from completing the form is they think that somehow if the parent provides their financial information, that they're somehow providing, their liability for the student taking out student loans, or they're going to be responsible for paying back student loans on the student's behalf. And that is not the case. One of the things that they've done with the 25-26 FAFSA, as well as the 24-25 FAFSA, they've provided a lot of language in that to assure families that when you're consenting to having your information shared, that does not consent, that does not indicate that you're consenting to you being responsible for any loans that the student takes out. So I think that that's one thing that we usually hear a lot, why families don't want to complete the FAFSA, which is a big myth.
Agreed. And in addition to you were talking about the types of aid that they're eligible to receive. Also, I wanted to add in for scholarships, because some scholarships are more than just merit-based scholarships. So some will say we also look at financial need, and we'll tell a student, you still need to complete the FAFSA application because we're going to want to get a copy of your FAFSA submission summary. And for those who've done FAFSAs in the past, it's the same as a student aid report, but it's a report that lets them know the financial strength in the family. And they look at that to determine who may or may not, qualify for the financial need-based scholarships that are out there. So that is another reason to complete the form that's out there. And I also think sometimes with the wording, it's changing. It makes them think, am I responsible? Because they've renamed anyone else besides the student, or even including the student, who has to provide the information. They call them contributors. And I've had a couple of folks that say, well, wait a minute, what contributors? What do I have to pay? And it doesn't mean that you are required to pay. You're required to contribute your information on the FAFSA form. It does not mean you are required to contribute a single dollar towards the student's education. It doesn't lock you in on a student loan. It doesn't lock you in for any portion of the bill that is out there. It's still technically the student's responsibility, or the family's responsibility as a whole, to complete the form to see what you qualify for. Nothing more, nothing less regarding an obligation to pay when it comes to that. And then for FAFSA itself, and I'm thinking all of the things and questions that have come up with us for 25-26, I want to say some of the biggest obstacles that were there last year are not there, with the system freezing or dropping or going back in circles or anything like that. But are there any things that you've seen thus far for 25-26 that you think might be worth noting for someone to say, okay, let's take a pause, and if you do run into this is how you handle it?
I think we still continue to see issues with people actually completing their studentaid.gov account. And those are issues that have predated even a 24-25 FAFSA. So I think that that's an important part of the process, is that the student, as well as whoever is contributing to the student's FAFSA, needs to create an account on studentaid.gov. We recommend, about 3 to 4 days prior to you using that ID on a FAFSA form. But it's critically important that you take your time when you're completing that process, so that there's not any mistakes made that could delay you in completing your FAFSA. Some of the things that families have ran into is I would say, it's a common problem that some families run into, is that when one of the questions asks for the cell phone number of the person that's creating that studentaid.gov account. And if someone else has created a studentaid.gov account with that same phone number, because maybe they had that phone number, let's say, 5, 7, 8 years ago, if they never removed it from their studentaid.gov account, when you try to put that phone number in, it's going to detect, it's going to say, hey, this number is already in use. And so sometimes that creates a barrier for people to create their studentaid.gov account. The Department of Education has said, if that happens, just do not use the phone number and just use your email address as the verification in your account. And that's how you can get past that. You can also try contacting, the customer service number, but as you're creating the ID, they said that you can just kind of leave the cell phone number blank if you do in fact get that message, because it does mean that someone's account has already used that particular cell phone number in years past.
Good point, because I've had that happen and that has been a solution. Let's just not use the number and then they can keep moving through. The other thing I think is really important with creating the studentaid.gov account is that students want to make sure that they are entering their credentials accurately as they appear with the Social Security Administration, because that information does get verified. Also, they want to make sure when it comes time to invite their parents to complete their portion of it, that it really matches, again, the credentials with the Social Security Administration and the parents' information matches. Because if it's different, if they get the Social Security number wrong, if they get the email, if they get the, not the email address, the date of birth wrong, or they did not spell their parent's name exactly as it appears on the studentaid.gov account, their parent will not see the invitation come through. And so I've had some get stuck in the loop and the student is insistent. Sometimes I'm like, nope, the parent's like, no, you got the date of my birth wrong, so you don't know my birthday, or the parent may have had a hyphenated last name and their studentaid.gov account for the parent is hyphenated. The student didn't put the hyphenated last name. They just used one of the two. And I've seen that become like a problem. But most of the issues I've seen, fortunately, with studentaid.gov are fixable. It's usually a user error that is out there. And again, if it's one that is not, if they're working directly with the Student Aid Information Center or FSA to work through it, that's always the goal. So one of the important things I say, like you were talking about, studentaid.gov account, it's important to have it and make sure you give yourself adequate time to actually create that studentaid.gov account for everyone who's going to be required to contribute their information, especially paying attention to the deadlines for when your FAFSAs need to be completed, because you're going to have to go through that verification process. So give yourself, if you know a school says, hey, we want your FAFSA to be completed by, I'm just making up a date, February 1st, you don't want to sit down to complete your FAFSA or your studentaid.gov account January 31st, because it's not going to get successfully completed by that next day. So that's another point that I usually like to bring up to students and families as well. The other thing I always say is you're not in it alone. You're not by yourself. So you don't feel like you have to complete the FAFSA application all alone. And again, going back to this is FAFSA completion week of action. So it's a week of action for a reason. And the goal is to help students and families and provide all sorts of outlets for students and families to complete the FAFSA form. So from a Federal Department of Education or FSA standpoint, they have everything from new and improved YouTube videos that are out there that give you more information on completing the FAFSA application itself. They also have some tutorials that are out there. They even have some it's like a guide that they have, like a guide to, do you remember what it's called? I can't think of the name of it off. Pro tips. I think it's pro tips for completing the FAFSA is how they have it labeled if you're out there on studentaid.gov. So it's pro tips for how to complete the FAFSA application. That's also out there. And one that I think I've been finding helpful, because in some of my counties, I have a lot of families and students where the parents or someone is not an English speaker. So they don't speak English fluently or Spanish fluently. So they've created these FAFSA guides in different languages. I think they started with the most 10 popular languages. So they have some additional languages where you can go out there and get some tips and some guides in those particular languages that are out there. And they also have some interpreter services where I think it's over 60 languages where if someone needs help with some interpretive services to get through the FAFSA application, they're able to do that. So I think those are two of the resources that come from FSA for everything. I think also students and families should still take advantage of the information center where they can chat, they can talk to, or they can email directly with FSA. Me personally, I like chat. I think it's quicker because you could literally be doing the FAFSA application and chat with someone directly from there and get a quick answer and then keep moving. You don't have to delay or wait. And they also have some expanded hours. From a FEAA standpoint, we're also doing quite a few things. So again, going back to the 13 higher education access partners, there are 13 of us strategically placed throughout the state of Pennsylvania And one of our goals is to assist students and families with their financial aid efforts, specifically with completing the FAFSA application. So throughout all of us, I think on average, it's just for this week, between January 13th and the 17th, we have over 40 FAFSA completion sessions or workshops that we are doing individually, all scattered throughout Pennsylvania. Some of us are linking with in-person sessions directly at schools or community organizations. Some of us are doing one-on-one virtual workshops with families who might have questions or just need to get through a few things. We also have webinars going on. So we have a variety of different things that are going on to try to get students and families what they need to completely knock out that FAFSA application, specifically for this week only. And then I'll let you speak on what we're doing beyond just this week, because I think we have a lot of good stuff going on. And hopefully those who are listening, if they have a need or they know of someone who has a need to get it completed, they can tap into those resources.
Yeah, sure. So we're also doing a number of different public FAFSA completion events that FEEA is hosting. So we are having a public FAFSA completion event here in Harrisburg on January 30th. We are also having a financial aid night statewide webinar with Representative Hanbidge also on January 30th. So maybe if you can't attend the in-person event and you just want to receive some general financial aid information, including information about the FAFSA, you can attend that virtual session with our access partner and Representative Hanbidge on January 30th. In addition to that, we are doing several different public FAFSA completion events in February. We have one at Robert Morris University on February 4th. And then we're also doing one in conjunction with JCC College Connect on February 10th. And then we are also doing a statewide virtual FAFSA completion event on February the 19th with all of the access partners statewide. So you can find out more information about all of these events on our website. There's part of our website that shows public FAFSA completion events. So if you wanted to sign up for any of those events, definitely check out our website to get more information on that. And then I just want to also point out, in addition to that, we also have a number of different online resources. We have a FAFSA resource page for students and parents on our website. We also have a FAFSA counselor toolkit on our website for counselors to take advantage of. So definitely take a look at all of these resources because, as Tiffany said, you don't have to do it alone. We're here to help. And I think between all of these different resources, we should definitely get you in a good position to have that FAFSA filed in a timely fashion.
Absolutely. And so again, the main purpose for this episode was to really promote, excuse me, FAFSA Week of Action. Of course, I would get a frog in my throat as I'm talking, but FAFSA Week of Action between January 13th and 17th, but we don't want your efforts to stop. So a couple things and just reminders in addition to the things we've already said. Where do you go to file your FAFSA? Studentaid.gov. That is the Department of Education's primary website for all things financial aid, as well as to complete the FAFSA. And remember, you're completing the 25-26 FAFSA. Whether you knock it out this week or whether it's next week or another week, again, don't forget to reach out to us with any questions or concerns that you may have. If you're someone who's listening on and you're not able to attend any of the particular sessions we've had, reach out to one of your access partners. Again, all of that information is on our website at PHEAA.org, PHEAA.org, and we're more than willing and able to set up some time with you all to get you what you need. So whether you're a school, you're a government agency, or anyone who works with them, please share that information. That help is available. They don't have to do it alone, and we're happy to assist. Anything that you wanted to add before we kind of just part and say happy FAFSA Week of Action and wrap it up?
I think that's it. I mean, happy New Year again, everyone. And I think that you will find, as you are completing the FAFSA this year, that it will be a much more enjoyable experience. And hopefully, with all these additional resources, you will have even more support. So we're happy to help in any way we can. And, feel free to reach out to us and check out all of the resources that we talked about for additional help.
All right, so I think Deanna wrapped that up well for this topic, or for this hot topic segment. So thank you all for tuning in, and you all have a great day. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.